On Inhouse Cloud, we use functions to write our logic. Now, this logic can be used in web apps, APIs, and in your automations. And to write this logic, this function, we write it in the function builder. So the function builder is basically a module for writing, maintaining, and referencing your logic. Okay, so today we are going to be exploring the function builder in some detail. All right, to create the function, go to the create function form. We're going to call our function demo function. I'm going to say this is a function demo functions. Right. I'm going to add one workflow. We're going to talk about workflow in a little bit. Let's just add a workflow. We're going to call this logic. And within the workflow, we have steps. And you can embed, you can have multiple workflows. For instance, I can close this out and create another workflow. I'm going to call this logic 2. And now I have two workflows. I can have steps in both workflows. They would execute sequentially. All right. And if I indeed want to rearrange my workflows, I can just quickly rearrange them. If I want to delete a workflow, which I'm going to do right now, I will simply just delete this workflow. Okay. Now let's get into more detail. All right. So if we look over here to the left, we have 4 tabs or 5 tabs rather. So we have our config tab. This is basic configurations. We have a few things. If you want this function to only be editable by the author, which is in many cases you, you could just toggle this off, right? If you want this function to be visible to external users, and this is in the case where you are collaborating with third-party users, you might want to turn this on. By default, all functions are private to an account. If you want to restrict access to a function, you could basically toggle this on and add the permissions that you want to read and write to this function. This comes in very handy in a big organization, or if you're like working in big teams, but you want people to maybe see a function in the builder, read it and understand it, but you don't necessarily want them to make changes to this function. You can basically accomplish this using this uh, interface. Here you have the version control. If I were to save this right now, I have two versions, right? The original version and the currently saved version. Uh, and it says here that the deployed version is version 1. So in all the places that this function is referenced, it will be running the copy of version 1. The second I deploy, then every single place, be it web apps, APIs, or automations, will receive this update. Okay. And of course, you can just delete the function. Parameters. So parameters are basically function parameters. So you can imagine you create a function, you pass in parameters, and these parameters get executed or are available for interaction within your function. So here we have two types of parameters. We have system generated parameters. So basically, it's the parameters that the system has already namespaced and kept aside for you. We provide these parameters automatically. Uh, and then we have the parameters that you create, right? So if you wanted to create a parameter, all you just need to do is type in the parameter name. I can say random and just give it a description. Select type. If you want to have an initial value, so this initial value comes into play when perhaps the data is invalid. Just going to keep this as an empty string. So now I have my manually set parameter, and I have the system set generated parameter. And if I want to edit this, I can just easily click on it and edit. Um, but yeah, so let's take a look at some of these parameters really quickly. We have the app data. So this is a client only parameter. Client only system generated parameter. This means that this parameter is only available if this function is triggered from a web application. So this app data is basically the application's data. We have the events object parameter. This parameter is basically passed in if this function is executed from an event on a web application, because this is client only. And you can think of the events as on click, on hover, on mouse leave, all those web application JavaScript events. In list, so this is a parameter that basically lets you know if this function is being triggered from a list item. So a list could be just a regular list, or it could be a table. List item data is basically uh, the um, uh, the raw data of your list. So if you're in the list, you should expect list item data to exist. If this function is executed from a list, you have this list item or raw data available for you. So you can use either the app data in conjunction with the list item index to get this, or you could just use this directly. It's up to you. User. So this is basically the authenticated user. As you can see here, this is client and API. So, if you have, if you're using a function in an API, one way that users can authenticate themselves is by providing an API key. Now, that API key is usually attached to someone, and that person's credentials, uh, well, not credentials, that person's information will be here. If it's their first name, last name, email, permissions, and all that good stuff. User agents is basically just the user's computer specs. Route parameters are basically route parameters, uh, client and API. So this is on in both uh, interface types. Query string parameters are basically query string parameters. These are basic programming tenants, right? You can look this up. And request headers, this is only in APIs. So you have your request headers and the request body. So we automatically provide all these parameters. These parameters can be interacted with from within your functions. All right, so let's add a step. And what we're going to do in this step is that we're just going to return, we're going to consume this in an API. So we're going to change this to an object. We're going to say we want to see request headers. I'm going to set that to request headers. Add another one. I'm going to say request body. Start typing request body. All right, so now I have basically this function. All it does is return the request headers and the request body. I'm going to save this. I am going to go over here. Don't forget to deploy your functions. I'm going to deploy. I'm going to look for an API to demo this in. So I'm going to go to my API hub. I have this demo API, so I'm going to view this. So this API is, let me see, does it have any endpoints? It does have one endpoint. Let me see if I have another API. I have this one tutorial. Let's just mess around with this one. All right, so this API, all right, it's already exposed to the public. It could be private, it could be public, it's up to you. We have one endpoint, it's a mirror endpoint. Uh, we have one query string that we've set. We can remove this, we don't need this. Uh, and And what we're going to do here is that we are going to look for that function. And I think this is the function, demo function, right? Right, this is it. All right, so we've attached that function to an API. We're going to save. And just like we did with the function, we are going to go to the config and we are going to deploy to our development environment. We have three environments in APIs. You can look for the API tutorial videos. We go into more detail. All right, I'm going to just grab the endpoint. Where is it? Here we go. I'm going to say this is the development environment. I'm going to copy this. We're going to pull up Postman. I'm going to open up another window, another tab. Yeah. Paste this in. It was a post request. If I'm not mistaken, I'm going to set a request body in JSON. Say first name, Sam, last name, Johnson. This is not my name, by the way. All right, so we're going to post. And there you have it. We have the request header and we have that request body as we've designed in our function. So if we go back to the function, let's see, let's open it up over here. Let's close this up. Go back to our demo function, and let's say we want to add something else. We want to see what the request headers are. Oh, sorry, not the request headers, the query string parameters. Let's say query params, and let's start typing query string parameters. We're going to save this. We are going to deploy, and we're going to pull up Postman again, repeating our API. Well, it's the same response. We need to actually add a query string parameter. I'm just going to say random is equals to great. I already have that here. That's great. And there you have it. It works. So basically, let's go back to the function, right? So we've done something very basic, but this function builder is very advanced. It's fully functional. We have something we call script user interface. So let's give this variable a name of, let's just say first name. Right, so we have this building blocks we call script user interfaces. Right, so these are basically the building blocks for functionality. So let's say we wanted to do something cool. We wanted to let's say change this to name, right? Let's say we had a parameter called first name, and first name string, and we had one called last name. It's also a string. Now what we can do here is that we can do cool stuff like, I can say first name, add another step. I come here and this is going to be an expression. I'm going to add another step. Then I'm going to say last name. Okay. So as you can see here, we've just uh, basically concatenated two strings. But obviously, there's supposed to be a space in between. So I'm going to come over here. I am going to add an empty string. This is a space, right? Then add another one. Then I'm going to make this an add expression. So basically what we've done here is that we basically said first name space last name. So you can see how quickly you are writing some really nice logic. So we have everything from you know for loops, uh, while loops. If you can switch statements, every single programming tenant you can think of is here. Debugging features like console logs. You can do some. We have some custom, really nice functions like array to buffer. Uh, we can create an automation directly from a function. You can encrypt, decrypt, encrypt and decrypt. You can even mess around with DOM elements. So I could basically get a DOM property and then manipulate that DOM property. So, no need for injecting custom JavaScript in your application because you can actually mess around with the DOM elements directly at the DOM level. You know, you can execute DOM methods. We this function builder is very advanced. So let's do something. Let's do something fun. Let's just call it calculation. Let's just do some random calculation, right? And what we're gonna do here is that we're just gonna open parentheses, add another step. All right, so this script UI, we have a video for it. You can watch that video to get what this is in detail. But this is basically just a single block of logic that you can add together. You can make an expression. So we're gonna change this to one number. Just gonna say this is 5. Gonna add another one, and I'm just gonna close this one out. I'm gonna say times multiplied by, close this. Let's say I want to multiply this by the current millisecond. I can basically click on the expression method. So those of you who have used tools like Lodash, jQuery understand this concept of chaining. So I'm going to just say date constructor, find that method, and I'm going to add another method. And this method is going to be to convert that date to milliseconds. Get time. All right. So there you have it. I'm going to add another step, which is to close parentheses. So here I am multiplying the current time in milliseconds by 5, and on and on and on. If you can think it, you can script it here. So this is a way to accomplish, uh, you know, code or programming level logic without any code. As we build more applications, we'll write more and more functions, and it will become second nature very quickly. Uh, and that's it for now. This has been a deep dive. Uh, Before I leave, actually, I'm just going to make a note that you can rearrange your steps. All you need to do is basically just click on that button, and you can reorganize your logic. And of course, exit rearrange mode. So we have full flexibility, and here is where you manage your variables. As you can see, we have a couple variables on the page. So if you ever wondered if you had like multiple workflow steps and you wanted to remember what you spelled the variable as, you can basically take a peep here. All right, we're gonna do more and more work with functions in the future. So I'm gonna end this video here, and I'm gonna catch you in another video.